I've been looking forward to setting up for spooky season in my reading journal so much. Hi, it's Erin, and I'm so excited to be spending some time with you in my reading journal today. We'll be setting up my October pages for my reading journal, but first I wanted to have a little look through September, see where we're at, and do some updating with you alongside me. There are video chapters in the scrolly bar down below as well as in the video description, so if you want to jump straight to the October setup stuff, you can do that. But if you'd like to see how I'm actually using September in the moment, because obviously it's still September when I'm showing you this, you can stay right where you are. So I'm using my stats page here with the calendar as kind of a timeline of when I'm reading everything this month. I'm trying to use colors that go with the theme and just tracking on the calendar when I'm reading what. The next page is for my TBR, which I call Maybe Next, and my actual September reads that maybe weren't part of my TBR list. I've done a pretty good job of reading the things on my list for this month though, which is very nice. I just need to fill in some star ratings here underneath, and I need to print a few more book covers for this spread as well, but we'll get to that later. First, most importantly, we need to go all the way back to the beginning of 2023 in this journal, because I've run out of space on my list of books read in 2023 page. So I'm actually going to try and be sneaky, because I don't want to add one later in the book, because I'm trying to conserve pages so that I can keep the rest of this year to this one journal. I'm actually going to steal this page out of the back of one of my KUMA stationery and crafts journals instead. This is my research and development journal. It can spare it, so I'm gonna pinch that page and cut it down to the size of the functional space of the page here, so you can still see the decoration at the top and bottom of the page, but this part I'm actually going to washi tape in. It's going to behave like I cut a Dutch door out of one of the pages, except instead of cutting a Dutch door out of one of the pages, I'm just adding an extra page that wasn't originally part of the journal. I do still want it to look as seamless as possible though, so I'm trying to set it up in the same style as the original ones, which means these dotted lines around the outside of the boxes. I'm using a Pigma Micron 03 that's actually starting to die. It's running out of ink and the nib is all kind of worn down, so that actually makes this easier than it would be with a new pen, just this kind of dotty dashy line. And I'm using a dark washi tape. I actually couldn't find the Starry Sky one because I'd put it aside for my October bullet journal theme for when we do weeklies, and I forgot that I'd put it aside, so I'm using a different washi tape that is also quite dark, maybe not quite black, maybe just a navy blue with a bit of gold gilding on it, and I'm using that on both sides of the tape just to add it to the spine section here so that it will kind of act like a hinge, as though this page is actually bound into the book, not just taped in. I decided to make it a little bit more purposeful and add another strip of washi along the outside edge so that it's obvious that this is a separate page, just to make it very durable as well, to have a bit of extra reinforcement on the outside edge of that page. And I'm using this little corner cutter to make the edges rounded just so that it looks a bit more polished. Now that this new page is as seamlessly added to the book as I can make it, I'm going to start adding the books in here that I haven't been able to fit on the spread up until now. The Final Girl support group was the book club book for my book club this past month. Not really my usual style, and probably will continue to not be my style, to be honest. Saving Francesca was an amazing read. It was very nostalgic for me, very reminiscent of my actual high school experiences, which is amazing. And Karma is a Witch by B. Perkins and Amy Vance. It's the last in the Deadlights Cove series, and I'm so sad that it's finished now. It was one of my favourite indie series of all time, so definitely good for spooky season, actually. The next page is my goal page. I've been using this one to keep track of the number of books I'm reading in the year, because my goal was 60, and I am definitely going to hit that. Goodreads says I'm like 12 books ahead of schedule or something, so this is very unusual for me, but I'm excited about it. Although this does kind of feel like just the same thing as what's on the previous page. in a visual format, so I think I'll find a different way for my next reading journal to keep track of the goal for the year. I'm not sure what number my goal will be for next year, because apparently 60 wasn't that hard to hit, so we'll see. I read most of my books in digital formats, so I liked having this little bookshelf so that I could match the color of the book to the color of the actual cover, so that I kind of can feel like I have a bookshelf. Not adding anything to my favorite books list this time, although Boy Swallows Universe I have already added on there, and that was one of my reads from this past September list. And I also need to update my series tracker because I read the first book in the Throne of Glass series this past month as well, so that has to go somewhere because I do intend to read the rest of the series as well. And sometimes when I'm prepping my list of books that I might want to read for the upcoming month, I'll refer back to the series tracker to try and incorporate something that maybe has been waiting for me to get to it for a little while. And it also helps to know how many books are in a series that you're about to jump into, because it can be a little bit overwhelming. Like, there's a lot in Throne of Glass, so I got my work cut out for me there. Here's where we're at currently with September. There's still a little bit of work to do here, but we're going to come back to it because I want to set up a couple of review pages first. Sometimes I get arty on these and sometimes I don't. These Infinite Threads I am definitely getting arty about because I really enjoy this series. It's not super heavy, I don't find. It's quite easy to listen to. I've been listening on audiobook. I feel like it's that perfect blend of fantasy romance without leaving you feeling like you have just run a marathon, if that makes sense. To be totally honest, the whole reason I picked these books up was because of the author's name, because she has the same first name as one of my high school friends, and it ended up being a really good choice, so that's always nice. I've been reading these ones through the library apps, Libby and what's the other one called? BorrowBox. I tell you what, if you are an audiobook fan but you're not using your local library to listen to them, you are missing out. You could be saving yourself so much money. I only recently, the past couple of months, started doing this. And between my two local libraries that I'm able to have memberships to, I have access to so many audiobooks that I did not expect them to have. So it's been really cool and I'm saving a lot of money on, audiobooks downloaded through Audible. So that's great. I recommend it wholeheartedly. There are links to all of the things I'm using in this video in the description down below in case you'd like to get your hands on any of the stuff that you see me using. I always try to match the theme of my art page to the cover art if I can, and the colors of this one was so good because it's that kind of warm-toned pink, and also there's the dagger on the cover and the flowers, which is just the most wonderful combination. So I can go with one of my favorite colors, I can use a lot of my ephemera that has flowers and stuff on it is going to work for something like this, but also the dagger, I was like, oh, this is an opportunity because I recently picked up the Fantasy and Fiction stamp set from the Quirky Cub Collective and I've been itching for a chance to use it in my reading journal, and I was like, aha, my time has come. But the twist is that I'm stamping those stamps with the pink marker that I used at the top as well, so pink daggers and pink swords, and it's just, I'm so happy with it. I had so much fun making this spread. I typically try to get the reading journal spreads done as soon as I can after I finish a book because I forget things very quickly, but I do also make notes in my phone sometimes just in the Notes app when I'm listening to audiobooks, or obviously highlighting things on Kindle and making notes on them there too, so it helps sometimes to look back through those. With these Infinite Threads, I've had to refer to the Goodreads reviews a few times because I wasn't sure how to spell some of the things because I've been listening to it. By the way, don't read the text that I'm writing out now, the actual review of the book, if you don't want spoilers. This is the second book in the series. The first one is This Woven Kingdom, so spoilers are in there, just so you know. But you can just not read it and that will not give anything away. The next one is for KUMA is a Witch, which I have been really looking forward to. It's funny because the two main characters in this book have been not my favorites throughout. I didn't dislike them, but they were characters that I liked a lot better. But I was like, oh, how's this book gonna go? It's about them, going in, but I like them both so much now. Isn't it funny how that works? The authors of this series have a Discord server where they've been hosting a buddy read of all of their books this year that I've joined in with, and this is the last one. It's technically not the month for it in the buddy read yet, but it just came out at the end of August and I was like, I'm not waiting, I have to know what happens. In the Discord server, they had photos that were their inspiration for the characters or that they think best fit the characters that they wrote, and so I saved all of those and I've been using them in my reading journal spreads throughout the year, so you can see some of them on the previous pages for these books as well. But this is Devana and Orion. They live in Deadlight's Cove, which is a town of supernatural beings. Devana is a witch and Orion is an angel, and they hate each other. We love a good enemies to lovers story, don't we? As well as the fantasy fiction set, I also picked up the Practical Magic stamp set from the Quirky Cup Collective, which is both a wonderful stamp set and a wonderful movie that I will hopefully be watching in October at some point. And I mean, come on, the main character's a witch, as if I'm not going to use the crystal balls and candles and that kind of thing on these spreads. So I thought I would add those in with the black, it's the Tombow Fudenosuke pen that I usually use for my stamps. And I let them dry for a little while, and then we're going to colour over them with some Tombows as well, so they kind of look like little illustrations in the book. The pen I'm using for all of my long-form text in this video is the Muji gel pen that everybody raves about. I was in Sydney recently and we don't have a Muji in my city in Brisbane, so I picked a couple of them up because I wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and I usually am not into gel pens, but I totally get it now. It is an amazing gel pen. I understand why so many of you like it so much, so welcome to the family, little gel pen. That's the Karma is a Witch spread done. I'm going to turn the page now and we'll do a little bit of setting up for some of these pages like these two that you see here. I have a space here for Fellowship of the Ring. My partner and I listened on audiobook while we drove to Sydney. I have run out of bandwidth to do art pages for my reviews for this particular setup, so I will come back to it later and I will show you on my Instagram stories or something when I do that. I keep a track of any book covers that I still need to print on a post-it, and I typically just stick to the next available page in the book, so when I need to print things, I know kind of what's on the list. And I'm going to set up these couple of more simple spreads. I'm not actually going to fill these ones out. The one on the left here is for Saving Francesca by Melina Marchetta. It was a wonderful book. Thank you so much, Brooke, for recommending this. I thought I might have read it before, but I can't remember exactly. I know I read Looking for Alibrandi. It's set in the early 2000s, which is also when it was released, and it's by an Australian author about an Italian teenager growing up in Sydney, and it's just so wonderful. I really enjoyed it. If you're an Aussie and you want to go back to your high school experience, but like in the best possible way, definitely give it a read. Alright, here we go. It's time to get spooky for October in my reading journal. I'm so excited about this. I'm using a combination of these rectangular frames I got recently from Journal Say. I have a whole video about that you can watch if you'd like to. This beautiful purple printed paper I thought was so lovely and subtly Halloween-y. You know, I always think of like purple and orange as Halloween kind of colours. This one's purple but it's muted, which I really like, so as always I like to tear up my paper before it goes in my journal. And I'm going to pair up the frames with these amazing stickers from STATIONERY, which is a wonderful Brisbane stationery store. Definitely check them out if you're into stickers. These are from their Goth Energy Planner sticker kit, so I'm layering those underneath the frames because the vibe I was going for here was kind of like a Morticia and Gomez Adams family gallery wall sort of vibe. Does that make sense? So it looks like they're family portraits of your weird and wonderful aunts and cousins, maybe. I don't know. I've actually just gone through all of my stationery and grabbed out everything that I thought was remotely Halloween-y. I usually go in with much more of a plan than this, but this one I totally just went in and was like, let's play and see what happens, because I didn't have any ideas. I thought I would use this big crystal ball on the left page here, and I thought it would be cool to stamp it partially on the purple and partially on the white page of the journal, and then I didn't like it, so we're actually going to cover that with a sticker, which is not where I would have placed it if I wasn't trying to hide something, but that's totally fine. It works. It's okay. I'm going to set up the pages within the October reading journal initial setup a bit differently to the last couple of months because I'm still learning and kind of growing with this. August was my first month doing dedicated monthly pages in my reading journal, so I'm still working out what I like and what works for me. The right page is still going to be my stats page, but I'm changing up the format a lot because I'm actually moving the calendar. I'm not doing the calendar this time. I'm going to do something else as kind of a timeline for tracking my reading for this month and see how it goes. I'm actually loving these colours, the bright greens with the purple, and there's that little bit of red and orange going on and some blue. It's just really fun. It's like a pop art Halloween, and I'm into it. I got this set of PET tapes from Journal Say recently as well, and they're all very Halloween coded, but I ended up only using one for this video, which is the one with the pumpkins on it, because I was like, well, that's very traditionally Halloween, isn't it? And we don't have pumpkins all around us here in Australia because it is spring for us right now. While all of you guys are having your cozy moments in the Northern Hemisphere, we're about to get really sweaty, unfortunately. The reading stats thing is just for fun. I just enjoy data. I really am the sort of person who looks forward to my Spotify Wrapped at the end of every year, and I do the Receiptify playlist wrap-up thing at the end of every month too, so this is just a fun thing for me. I really enjoy having stats like this. The things that I track as far as reading stats are the number of books that I complete in the month, the total number of pages read, which Storygraph, the app, thankfully tracks that for me, like converts it from audiobooks, which is amazing, the average rating of the books that I read in that month, what my standout most favorite book of the month was, and then I'm trying out pie charts. I still haven't filled out the pie charts for September because obviously the month is not yet over, so I don't know how that's going to go. I'm giving them another month to see how I feel about them, but the top one is for genres, and the bottom one is for format, so ebook, audiobook, paperback, hardcover, library, that kind of thing. This next page is called a progress bar, and this is not my original idea. I saw this recently on Instagram on a post from Wit's Journal, Whitney, and she mentioned in her caption that she was inspired by Journal with Ray and also Whiskey Mug. So this is something that has kind of disseminated through the reading journal community, I think, but I thought it was a really cool way to keep a timeline of the books that you read throughout the month. You'll see as it comes together, and also from the pictures that I popped up when I mentioned those creators. It's almost like a habit tracker setup. It's a way that I have done a habit tracker setup in the past, but instead of tracking habits, each row is a book, and you can put the timeline of when you start and finish or start and choose not to finish a book. And it's a very clear, linear way to do it rather than the calendar, which I felt was a little bit complex. I did enjoy the calendar. I think I really like how complex it looks, but I'm testing things out to see what works best for me. And I thought this is a fun way to have a new spread too, so that's always fun. The bar along the top here has the numbers from 1 to 31 because they represent each day in October, and then underneath that is the space where each of the book titles will go, and there's a column for that also on the left, although I haven't finished drawing out the lines yet, but you'll see where it goes when I've got all of these on the page. I'm also going to add a key up the top so it will signify with a couple of different symbols whether it was an audiobook or an ebook, because they're really the only two kinds of book that I read. I really don't read physical books anymore, which is wild. I know that's probably crazy to a lot of people. It just is how I am. I don't judge you if you prefer paper. I totally get it. I really never thought I would be an electronic reading kind of a girl, but here we are. And I'm also adding another symbol for DNF, which is of course the abbreviation for did not finish, which is not something that I have done a lot traditionally, but I've decided to be a bit more ruthless and not push through books that I'm not enjoying unless they are for my book club and we have like a good reason to do that. I'm nearly 36 and life's too short, you know. I've only got so many books left in my lifetime, so I'm not gonna waste that time on books that I'm not enjoying. And if you enjoy books that I don't enjoy, that is amazing. I absolutely love that. I think it's so cool that people like different things and get different things out of different things, even at different times of your life. I loved Boy Swallows Universe. That was an amazing read for me, and I listened to it on audiobook and I loved it. I downloaded it on Kindle like 2-3 years ago, and I think I got like 8% in and stopped because it just wasn't engaging me. So sometimes you just have to be in the right place in your life to enjoy a book too, I think. Those of you who have dogs that don't like seeing cats on their screen, this is your alert to pause the video now because my cat's about to appear. There he is. This is the Mitsu. He's wonderful. And I had to get him off the table very quickly because he was putting his tail a little bit too close to my lit candle, unfortunately. Fellow reading journal users, if you have ever used a progress bar in your journal, please let me know what you think of it, or if you think there's any way that I could improve this one, because I'm very interested to see how this goes. I'd love to hear from you. If I was thinking a bit more clearly when I set this up and had gone in with more preparation, I probably would have done my maybe next and my October reads pages next, but I wasn't thinking about it. And usually the third spread in my reading journal setups so far is for the literary ladies, which is my book club, which I absolutely love to bits. And that's where my head was at, so I've gone straight into the Literary Ladies page here, which is totally fine. It doesn't really matter which order the pages are in. This one I'd just like to give a little bit of decoration around the sides because I don't always know how much space I'm going to need to potentially rant or potentially rave about the book club book that was chosen for that month. We don't know what our book club book is yet for the month of October. We haven't had our meeting yet, but once we do, the book that we've chosen is going to go in this top left corner here. So I grabbed a piece of the sprocket paper from my HP sprocket printer, which is what I use to print all of my book covers in my journal. I have a short about that I'll pop a link to in the description in case you want to know how I print my reading journal book covers. Because the decoration on this page does not have the book taken into account when I set it up, I print a big, like a full-size sprocket piece of paper for the book cover for this one so that it has a bit more levity on the page. So that space in that top left corner is just a placeholder. That's where that book cover will go. There are a couple of other things I like to track regarding the book club books that we do, so I'm leaving a bit of purple space at the top here. That's where I'll probably write the title of the book, and then I've got some extra spaces underneath that for some other data. I like to put the name of the author, the dates that I was reading it, the format that I read it in, which member of the Literary Ladies chose that particular read, and my star rating. I just like having it organized for this one type of book. I don't know why that is, but here we are. I'm excited to see what our October book will be. I think it might be Halloween appropriate, which is very exciting. The next spread, of course, is the one that I mentioned just before that I probably would have put before this if I had thought this through a little bit better, but that's okay. On the left page is my Maybe Next, which is what I call my TBR. I just don't like the name TBR. I will say that in every video because I think it makes sense to explain it, but I just think Maybe Next sounds like less pressure, so that's what I call it. And on the right page will be the other books that I read in the month that I maybe didn't set out to read so much. Last month I only did 3 on my Maybe Next page, and I ended up reading all of them, which is kind of great. And I didn't necessarily do that the month before for August, so I thought I'll go back to being a little bit ambitious, and I'm excited about Halloween appropriate books, of course, so I'm giving myself 5 this time instead of 3. And I've been learning through trial and error here that less is more when it comes to decoration on these pages, because the book covers are never going to match the colors of the theme. It ends up pretty wild and busy, and if I read a lot, I need a lot of space on the page to put all of the book covers down and then a star rating underneath. So I'm trying to keep the decoration quite sparse, but also it's for the spooky season and it's really hard to be sparse when you're excited to use all of your witchy and cute and slightly creepy stuff. So, you know, I'm trying to walk the line here a little bit. The books on my Maybe Next list for October 2023 are The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I read the previous book, The X-Hex, a little while ago, a couple of years maybe, and I really liked it. A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon I've just been seeing all over social media and I'm like, well, it's time. Likewise with The Cruel Prince. The Lost Apothecary my friend gave me a paperback copy of from a thrift store, and so I'm like, well, I have it and it's got a gorgeously Halloween-y cover, so let's give it a red hot go. And last is The Witches of New York by Amy McKay, which one of you guys actually recommended to me on my last video, so thank you so much for that. I'm excited to give it a good shot too. While I was printing the covers for my Maybe Next page, I also printed a couple of extra ones that needed to go back in my September reads page, so I'm just adding those in. I don't think I'm gonna finish It Happened One Summer. I'm kind of bored. Is that just an audiobook thing? Should I switch to ebook for that and read the rest? I don't know. Since we did so much in the September pages, I thought I would flip through from September all the way through to the October ones that we've just done together. Thank you so much for planning with me for my reading journal for next month. I've had the best time hanging out with you. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were, or if you have more recommendations for me. I would absolutely love to hear them. Also, if you keep a reading journal and you do monthly pages like these ones that we've set up together for October today, let me know if there are any pages you use that I haven't tried yet, because I want to try everything. Oh, I'm reading Charm by Tracy Wolfe at the moment, which is from the Crave series, so I'm just gonna stick that to this page so I know that's where it's going. I have this spread for anything else that I read in September, and then October happens, just so you know kind of how this is all fitting into the journal. I'm trying to ration pages so I can get to the end of the year without having to start a new one. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more in my reading journal, I have a flip through video that I made mid-year that shows you the first half of the year before I started doing these monthly pages. So there is a link to that here, and also my whole reading journal playlist in case you'd like to watch some more. You can hit the like button down below or hit subscribe if you'd like to see more from me in the future, and you can find me on Instagram as well at erinsmith.art. See you again soon.